In this video, I'm going to give you 2 ways to identify how wealthy someone else is going to be in the future and how you can align yourself with those individual character traits. All right, if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex Hormozi, I own acquisition.com. It's a portfolio of companies that does over $100 million a year, and I make these videos because I actually enjoy doing it. All right, so that being said, this came from a conversation that I was having with a good friend of mine. He exited his company for just under $500 million. And we were just having like a philosophical conversation around, what is it that makes people successful and what are kind of the things that you can identify early or mindset shifts in terms of perspective that allow people to have an unfair advantage. And so if you followed any of my stuff, I talk a lot about time, I talk a lot about money. And so it's unsurprising that the 2 traits have to do one with time and the other with money. And so one of the things that's interesting about this is the concept of measuring sticks. A lot of us have these base units that we measure things in, and it's kind of like shorthand that you use in your brain. And so I'll give you a simple example. So when I was in high school, I used to measure, how much money something was by the amount of Chipotle burritos I could buy. And because I used Chipotle burritos, because it was an understandable quantity of value for me. And so everything was like, how many Chipotle burritos is this? And that was because that was like the amount of money that I was making, and that was a material amount of value for me at the time. And so one of obviously the measuring sticks that people use is in money. And so the bigger the people that you hang around with, the bigger the unit of money that they will measure things in terms of like base units. And so for you, over time, you want to increase what that base unit looks like. So you want to start measuring things like how many 10K units there are, how many cars is this, how many houses is this, how many businesses is this, right? And even just the amount of money itself, how many 10Ks, how many 100Ks, how many millions there is. And just as an aside here, in Wall Street, in the hedge fund world, they have a term that I learned probably a couple years ago, which is a stick, right? And a stick is their measuring unit, which is $1 million. So they're like, yeah, give them a stick or put 2 sticks in. And they say that because they have these measuring units that are significantly bigger than most people can fathom or imagine, but because our brains think in units. And so if you can hang around people whose base unit of measurement around money is far greater than yours, then you will start chunking up and thinking about money in those greater terms. And all of a sudden, for example, let's say your base unit of money is $100,000 or $10,000 even, then it makes it much less likely for you to go participate in an activity, right, that's going to generate you $100 or $1,000 because it's not even a full unit of measurement. So it's like almost why bother? And what happens, and the difference between rich dads and poor dads and what they teach their kids is that rich dads in general will teach their kids to go after higher leverage opportunities. They'll go after opportunities that have bigger base units of measurement, bigger base units of money that they can compile together, right? And so the first thing you can do in terms of identifying in other people and then also within yourself is what unit of measurement do they use? Are they using Chipotle burritos, right? Are they using $1,000 units? Are they using $10,000 units? Are they using $1 million units, right? So the bigger the unit of measurement they're using for money, likely the wealthier they are and the wealthier they become because they only will participate in activities that can be measured in those units. So that's number 1. Number 2 is measurements around time. And so this is, has an interesting kind of like part A and part B to it. So part A is that they, on a micro scale, within like day to day, they're going to act faster. They're going to be better utilizers of their time in general. And on the micro side, it's just about speed. It's about execution speed. If you start interacting with somebody and their speed of communication is rapid in terms of their turnaround time, in terms of when they communicate with you, in terms of how they respond to things, you can be sure that that person is far more active. And I'll give you a reason for why people move forward so much faster in life when they have that. You're trying to get something done, right? And let's say that you message someone and then, they wait a day and they message you back. And then you wait a day and you message them back. And then let's say it takes 5 interactions like this to get this project done. So that would be 10 days, like you one day, them one day, 5 times, right? And so that would be 10 days. Now imagine a different scenario where you have 2 people who are wealthier in terms of how they manage their time, right? How they leverage their time. And they're able to have that entire exchange within a matter of 30 minutes. Right? And now if you look at the difference between a 30 minutes and 10 days, it dramatically compresses the time to achieve the result. And then this is where it gets interesting. Now, after that 30 minutes, let's say they do that again and again and again and again. In a very real way, they will have accomplished more, literally in a day, than other people will try and accomplish in a month or more. Right? And this is how you compress time and you can drag your future into the present by increasing the speed with which you take action and you communicate with other people. All right. So that is the part A micro for time. Now, part B of time is macro. And so this is an important one when it comes to measuring sticks. And also, again, with the measuring sticks on the first one, because I really just want to drive this point home. I made a video about this, but it's the idea of switching from end of week being your default to switching to end of day or right now being your default. So how can I just make the default in my company end of day? Like if no one says anything, it has to be done by end of day, right? Or how can I say that my new default is by 4 hours from now, right? And so that becomes your new micro measuring stick in terms of how quickly you can get things done and reply and move things forward, etc. So you want to deal with people who have very condensed micro push things forward in terms of their activities and how they see things getting done. On the macros perspective, it's when people are talking about decades and not days, right? And so you can tell how wealthy someone is by their perspective on time in terms of how long they're willing to wait to see something through. And so this is kind of like a very extrapolated version of the marshmallow test. And if you've never heard of that, it's a pretty famous test where they have two kids and they said, hey, you can have a marshmallow now, or I can give you 2 marshmallows in a few minutes. And the kids who said, I want the marshmallow now, and couldn't use the self-restraint or self-control were significantly less wealthy, less successful later in their lives compared to the kids who could wait for the second marshmallow. And if you wanted to add an interesting wrinkle to this, you could make the marshmallow even further out. What about if the marshmallow was in 5 hours? What if the 2 marshmallows were tomorrow? What if the 2 marshmallows were a week from now? What if the 2 marshmallows were a year from now? Right? And I can guarantee that the person who had the furthest out date of when they were willing to restrain themselves would be significantly more successful. And that is because impulse control or self-restraint is one of the key drivers of success, because you can see where you're trying to go, and it takes, from a macro perspective, a long time to build amazing things, right? Rome wasn't built in a day, which is a quote that is said all the time, but people don't actually live by it. And so if you surround yourself with people who use measuring sticks of money that are significantly larger than yours, they have micro units of time that are significantly shorter than yours. They get things done faster. They communicate faster. They move things forward faster, right? And then in terms of how they measure the goals that they want to achieve in their life, they measure in decades instead of days or weeks or months. If you surround yourself and you give yourself those 3, which is 2 with 2 micros, lenses through which to see other people and then also to judge yourself, you will be significantly better off and you will move far more rapidly towards the goals that you want to achieve. And so anyways, this was a paraphrasing of a conversation I had with a good friend of mine. I thought I would share it with you guys because you guys are awesome. And I'm just so grateful that you guys enjoy this stuff. Please, let me know in the comments if there's other things that you'd like me to kind of outline. And if you do like this stuff, like, subscribe, share. It helps the YouTube gods share it to more people. So anyways, keep being awesome, Mosey Nation. Love you. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.